Hey everyone, thanks for watching this episode of 7.5 Questions. I'm honored to have Dan from Dank Comics on this episode. Dan, thanks for being here.
Oh, thank you, Scott. I'm honored. I didn't even know you knew me, to be honest. Like I've watched your show, I didn't know you knew me, so it was sort of felt out of the blue, and yeah, I'm honored. I'm always on, yeah, especially a show that I watch asking me on.
Well, those tend to be the best interviews for me, the people I know the least about and want to get to know a little more about, especially because I find them interesting.
Mm,
So,
oh,
and
thank
you
you.
definitely
Yeah,
have some interesting videos out there. So, and a
yeah.
lot of the live streams you're on is where I've really encountered you. You seem to
Mm.
be on a lot of different panels. So,
Oh, right. Yes, it's true.
right, and you do a Sunday show that's part of my mowing repertoire. So,
Okay. Yeah. Yes. I think it was supposed to be Saturday, but I did it on Sunday recently. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
and then I catch when it's not live on a Sunday, then I'm
Oh,
catching a replay on Sunday when I'm mowing. So,
got you. Wow, that is I'm very grateful for that. It's very flattering.
so all right. Well, let's get rolling. As I explained to you a little bit ago, we're going to start off with the first keyword for
Great.
your half question at the end of the show. So let's make your first keyword be strawberry.
Okay.
Strawberry.
Strawberry.
Okay. I'm going to go ahead and biggie size you.
Hmm.
And question number one. Uh, what's the story behind your IG, YouTube handle, and your logo?
Yeah, so Dank is short for my full name, Daniel Kim, Dan K, Dank. And it's my screenwriter filmmaker name as well. So I already made other channels before. So I've been making YouTube channels for 5 years, and this is the first one that is doing well, like ever. So, it's not like, yeah, it's not like, I just suddenly got good or whatever. It was like years and years of trying to figure this out and how to do this and how to perform, and all that. Um, so then, and it wasn't even my idea to do a comic book channel actually. So I work with a presser and cleaner named Avery, Josh Avery from Avery Press. Right, he's kind of a famous guy. He does great work, and but I was sending books, and his wife, she receives all the books, and she was so impressed with how I packed the books. And every time I sent them, she was like so impressed. So he asked me out of the blue. He said, "Hey, my wife really loves how you pack the books. Would you be willing to make a video on how to do it?" And so I could share it with all my clients. That way, they don't send all these messed up packages, and I'll give you a discount. I was like, I was like, dude, believe it or not, I'm a filmmaker. Like I love yeah, I'll do it. And so then I made it. I already had another channel that I was working really hard on. I was working harder, much harder on that nobody gave a crap about, right? So do people curse or are we?
Yeah. Oh,
Oh,
absolutely.
okay, all right. That no one gave a fuck about, right? So,
Yeah. I,
um,
I did Whack Comics last week. So,
oh, sure, sure, yeah. You ripping up comics with them, just like tearing apart your comics,
not
no?
on my show.
Just
There was
ripping covers off. Anyway, um, so then I made a video on how to pack the comics and everything, and then it got more views than everything I've ever done, right? And I was like, God dang it, right? So I thought, all right, maybe I should just like make some comic book like videos because I got really into the hobby, and I was like, yeah, whatever. And I actually didn't study the space that hard when I started. I was just like, I'm just gonna do my thing. Um, and it just grew really big, but really early on in the beginning, people seemed to very much like me a lot, like people I didn't know, and that didn't happen with my other channels at all. Really, it was like people I knew that liked it, whereas this was like strangers really liked it early on. And the logo is just, it's a CBC slab. I've done logos with like my head like here, and logo with sort of my face and head, because it can be sort of iconic, right? The bald Asian guy with glasses, like, so like,
yeah.
use that as iconography with the slab. um My wife designed that. My wife's also like a filmmaker. She's better than me in a lot of things.
Women usually are, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, she made me a much better. Like she's always talking about how I helped her, but she doesn't know. If it wasn't for her, I'd be like a broke ass pothead in the middle of nowhere, like living $600 rent, like, and not really making anything. I wouldn't be on YouTube. Like I wouldn't, I was like satisfied with my daydreams almost back then, but now I gotta make it happen like all the time.
Right.
Yeah.
So was it obviously it was an easy choice then for your screen handle.
Yeah.
Was there any alternates, anything else you kind of considered?
Not really. I mean, I did like my other channels. One was called like Haterade Parade. The other was like Not for Profit, and Profit is spelled like Prophet Muhammad, like not for profit, whatever.
Right.
Just stuff. It's all trying to be so clever, and I was like, I'm not even gonna try to be clever with this because again, I was just making a comic packing video, right? That was that was the point in the beginning. So I was like, I just call it Dank Comics, whatever. No one has that,
When I started watching your videos, researching a little bit, I saw that comic packing one of the first one, and for whatever reason, I skipped over it and went straight to the Return of the Collector.
Yeah.
Because I thought I already know how to pack comics, so I just find, and I figured you'd be a little, tell a little more about yourself in that first video. So
yeah, for sure. I mean that packing video was pure. Like my face isn't in it. My face is not in that video at all. It's just hands and a voice, And I don't know, when that got so many views, that's when my wife and I are like, maybe we should actually make this a real channel and do my thing of like be on camera and stuff. And that's why that first video I'm not even in it. My face is not in it.
All right. What's the first comic you remember reading?
I think it might have been like magazines, like related to superheroes in the 90s. So I was born in 84, so like 1990, 91, I started reading some comics, but I can't remember them very well. And then I do the earliest comics I can remember that buying, I rebought, of course, and I guess they were 93 was the earliest I can remember. But it's this Avengers Annual 22, totally worthless, right? And Ren and Stimpy 6, which is actually kind of a key. It's like first Powdered Toast Man, I think, and it's the first time Dan Slott wrote Spider-Man, which I didn't know. I was a little kid. I was like, wow, Ren and Stimpy and Spider-Man is in the I didn't even understand that this is part of Marvel Comics and like why this is happening, but I was just like, I need this because I was watching Ren and Stimpy because I was a kid, and every kid was watching Ren and Stimpy
right.
in the early 90s.
I was.
Oh yeah.
I wasn't a kid then. I was still watching it.
Oh yeah, yeah, because it's so it was our Looney Tunes, it was so chaotic and insane, and it was about like people just being way too upset, and that was like that was the humor of it. Like it was just like, oh yeah.
So you were obviously reading comics before then, but those ones from the early 90s are what jump out at you. You said.
Yeah, like I know I got Turtles Adventures comics. I just can't remember like the issue, the cover. Whereas these two, I remember from when I was young, what the covers look like, the issue. Like that's how I even found them again. I didn't know the issue numbers. I knew the covers, and then I found the covers. I was like, oh yeah, these are the comics I bought that year. And it was when I moved to a brand new neighborhood, and I was like trying to get along. It was like a kind of low income housing, like poor people stuff, and trying to get along with people. And I made friends, but I was kind of shy. And then we would go to the corner store, the convenience store, and pick up these comics back when convenience stores sold comics.
So in your Return of the Collector video, you said that you'd taken about 20 years off from the hobby.
Yes. Yeah. College. Co-
College.
college. Being 18. Being like, well, back in the day before I was 18, I would pick like 2 ongoings, 3 ongoings, and that's all I bought, like, or, not too much, but like today, us adults, we're buying everything we want or whatever, but when I was a child, you got to make a choice, so,
Right.
um, I was doing that, and then, and I would sell stuff on eBay too, before I was 18, the early eBay stuff, and that was fun before slabs, that, because slabs are chaotic. I mean, I have them, I'm not against them, but just, it really changed the whole selling game. But college, and then I just didn't understand like why I would spend money on comics. It just didn't make sense to me at that point, and I became somewhat of a minimalist too. But now with comics, when it came back, right, during COVID, basically, uh, I got back in hard, and I still had a bunch of comics from that time in the '90s, and I looked up a couple of them. I was just like, what the hell is going on?
So you hadn't gotten rid of any of them then.
Well, actually, I gave away tons of them. Actually, I gave away more than half of them, but still the remainder I had, which I thought was worthless. And I also did like, yeah, when I was near 18, I decided I'm gonna get out of comics, so I would take stacks of books and go to doctors' offices, dentists' offices, and just drop them off for kids because they don't want to read like Good Housekeeping, right? And then I'd also drop comics in subways and buses, and also give out like pristine runs of great stories to friends, because in my mind I knew I was going to college, I don't have time for this, and to me a passive comic, like something that's passive, is dead, in my opinion. Like objects that are passive are somewhat dead, like they've and my idea is like, if it's good enough and you share it, um they'll read it, and if they don't read it, they'll probably give it away because it's cool enough. Like it's got to be good enough. And you would not believe how much I used to have and how little I have. And that's why I'm on Hoarder's Hide now, because uh, but I have too many comics already. In the couple of months I've been back, I mean less than a year I've been back, it's been I feel like it's gotten out of control already, so I'm already like, but I had a new strategy after that Return Collector video. I realized I'm selling a lot. I sold already a lot of the '90s books for a fortune, like small fortune. I was just kind of like, what the f is going on? I was really shocked. I mean, stuff that I thought would never have value. Like I have Heir to the Empire one, Then I bought that off the shelf, and that was just a worthless comic. I thought it was kind of cool, and I could have sworn that would be. I would have swear to you that would be worthless forever, and then it became like one of the most valuable comics I've ever owned. I was like, what is happening right now? Because Star Wars books back in the day were junk. It's all junk.
Yeah, they definitely did not have the weight they do now. That's for sure. Hell, nothing did. But yeah, you could find a lot of those in the dollar bins.
Oh, and then discovering second prints are more valuable. I'm like, what? That's crazy. Second prints were garbage back in the night. Second prints were garbage. Newsstands were garbage. No one wanted barcodes in the 90s, And now it's like everything flipped. Everything's on its head, Anyway, I changed the strategy so that instead of just hoarding, I would sell as much as I can to and that hasn't been successful, but I'm gonna really sell like now, to pay a comic book artist to make a comic book series. So I invest in myself, but it's still in the realm of comics, and then I make comics to become a comic book writer, publisher thing.
Awesome. Yeah, I was listening to one of your videos the other day where you're talking about that.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's definitely kind of interested to see how that pans out. You've done what, 2 or 3 of the how to make a comic book videos now?
I made a lot. Because I chaptered them all weird, so it's like part 1, and then I was like, oh, I missed a bunch of stuff I need to talk about, so it was like 1.1, 1.2, you
Yeah.
know, like some bullshit, and then part 2, and I'm just like, but then in the last video I was like, I don't know what I'm not chaptering these correctly. I don't really know what's going on. I'm just gonna give lessons, you know. I don't really.
All right. Are you ready for another keyword?
Sure.
So first one was
Strawberry.
strawberry.
Mm.
Let's make the next one be screwdriver.
Hmm. Is to make one question,
You need to make one question. Yeah.
and I have to use all the words.
And I have to use all 4 words. And the question doesn't have to make sense, so that's what makes it easy.
Okay. Cool.
All right. Question number 3. When it comes to your personal collection, what's your favorite age, genre, publisher, title? You know, the general rundown. So what's your phase on all those?
I would say maybe this is my favorite age, like right now. You know, currently,
Current?
I think is that what we call ourselves, current, when we're talking about right now?
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's like, is modern, or what's modern? Is that before current?
Modern starts at what, 86
Yeah,
or something like that, I think, and goes up. But
I would say like it's a close, you know, modern's a close second, and then today, because I think the stories today are just really great, and the variety is great. I feel like Image just became Vertigo. I feel like once Vertigo left, everyone's becoming Vertigo, and
right,
I always wanted all comics to be Vertigo anyway. You know, I still read a couple of superhero books in the 90s, but I was actually not reading a lot of superhero. Like I was reading a lot of indies, a lot of Vertigo. But the indie stuff, it was all black and white. I don't know if people know that. Like having all indies be colored today, that's I couldn't believe that shit when I was
yeah,
yeah, that rarely happened in the 90s. It was like almost defined an indie was being black and white, you know, back in the day. Um, and Virgo wasn't like on the line. It wasn't even really thought of as indie necessarily because of color, because they had color. Anyway, storytelling is amazing. Cause well, I guess what it is not like when I think about it, like I think it's really like they're writing to 45-year-old men right now. Like all the comics are being written for 45-year-old men. Like whereas the 60s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, up to the 80s, a lot of it was for kids, but then it started to change in the 80s because I think they weren't getting new readers, and there was just the old readers aging up, because they weren't growing, like they shrank like crazy, and then they grew a little, but at a certain point they realized like we're feeding mostly the same audience that aging up. So I feel like the stories have become more nuanced, complex, and mature. At the same time, I do believe like there isn't enough space to get kids back in yet anymore, because now these Marvel comics are so convoluted and require like so much understanding of nuance that I
right.
don't know how accessible they are to kids like they used to be, you know?
Yeah, there's no Star Comics anymore.
Yeah. And I think that's, well, you know, I know everyone's trying to solve this problem, but it's a problem that must be dealt with. We need to grow as a community to sustain for the like far future or whatever. Because like right now, they're writing to us, you know, and that's great. That's why that's why I love the content right now. But um, I want to see more content for like queer people, women, like random people, you know, not only us. Sort of. I mean, they're doing that. They're doing that more and more. But yeah, I think it's a good time.
Um, so then I don't know if you stuck your genre in there,
Mm.
your genre of comic.
I think I would kind of say Vertigo as a genre, or like stuff that almost cannot be genred, right?
Yeah,
Like that doesn't belong in it. Like stuff that's mixed genre. It's usually my favorite. You know, because like you wouldn't call League of Extraordinary Gentlemen a superhero book necessarily. You know, it's so many different things.
Right. I like that term mixed genre, something you really can't put in one
Yeah,
category or that could be put into multiple categories.
yeah, that's what I love, and that's when I love, yeah,
A little more complexity.
complexity, and also just expanding what's possible in comics and storytelling, like just the boldness to go there instead of staying within the confines of a genre and constantly repeating the same beats because the genre demands those beats.
So, title: if you could only pick one comic, one book, one title to read for the rest of your life, which one would that be?
I think it might be. Um, it was really really hard, right? So I don't know. I'm gonna go with Planetary.
Okay,
Have you read Planetary?
I've read Planetary, but not Planetary.
Planetary by Warren Ellis.
Yep.
Um, it's a 26 issue series, so it's like a complete story. And it's sort of a satire on the Fantastic Four, but it's not about them. It's about this team of explorers and investigators that just catalog the history of the world, and a world with like every kind of genre of comics. It's all merged in there, and superhero stuff, and Black Ops stuff, and all this. You know, it's like Warren Ellis at his best, and it's about what happens when a group of people have great power and they do not take responsibility, and how abhorrent that really is, kind of.
Yeah,
And
and Warren Ellis has done a lot of good stuff.
oh yeah, yeah, it was between that and Top 10 by Alan Moore. Um,
Yeah,
the,
and that's something I heard you talk about. And that's another one of his I haven't read, but I heard you give a little synopsis on one of your shows about it.
yeah,
Sounds
one
pretty interesting.
is it won the Eisner for best series back in the day. And it's Alan Moore being very funny, playing with superheroes in a very playful way because he has such a reputation of being a crank, but
Yeah,
his
for
work
sure.
is actually like filled with beauty and love and light and humor, even after the crank reputation. So I was like, I don't know. I think like he's, I don't know. I feel like the companies kind of give him that reputation more than he deserves it because he doesn't screw anyone over, and I don't know.
Yeah, yeah, and he's definitely got the shaft a time or two.
Yeah, oh yeah, oh, double time with DC. I don't know if you know that, like with the buyout of Wildstorm, Jim
Yeah,
Lee's selling Wildstorm. They owned all the shit again, and he couldn't
yeah.
believe it. And
I'd like to
they
have been a fly on the wall when he realized that.
and they were like, "Did you read the contract?" He's like, "No." Like he just admitted, "No, I did not read the contract because I just trusted everybody." You know, and then Jim Lee's like, "Well, it's in the contract, like that I can do this or whatever."
Um, yeah, yeah. Back to Warren Ellis. Did you ever read his Global Frequency series?
Oh yeah, oh yeah, amazing. That's like Global Frequency is amazing. Planetary is very similar too. You know how like every issue is sort of almost self-contained. So
Right.
even though there's this ongoing story thread, the main story thread, Planetary, the issues are on self-contained almost, and each issue deals with a very famous trope in comics. Usually, you know, yeah, and it's more genre like comic related than Global Frequency, because Global Frequency, you know, it's not necessarily a comic about comics, right? Planetary
Right.
is a comic about comics. Um,
Yeah, Global Frequency was always one I was surprised they didn't turn into
they
a
shot
mini
a
a
they,
mini series or.
they shot a pilot.
Oh, really? I didn't know
Yeah,
that.
there's an unaired pilot of Global Frequency.
So it must not have tested very well then.
Yeah, and I think recently Warren Ellis was like Me Too'd.
I did. I do remember hearing that somewhere.
Yeah,
I don't remember where. That I think he got another job, or they were bringing him back to rework a book or something, maybe. And I think that's when I heard it resurface. Um,
well, yeah. I mean, he apologized. He admitted he didn't. You know, he had blind spots. He didn't assault anyone, right? Um, he just maybe misused his power and influence. I don't know. I'm
yeah,
not. Yeah,
yeah, it was
that's
like
what it seems is going on.
coercion, is what I remember them saying. Um, but I don't remember any of the details other than that and I don't remember what he was coming back to work on.
I would love to. I don't know. I don't remember the details exactly, but it seemed like it wasn't too bad. You know, I don't know.
Yeah. Um, it was something he was doing with Ben Templesmith. That's how, because I try and follow some of Templesmith's work.
Yeah.
Always been a fan of him, and something that they were teamed up on is what brought all this out. But that's as much as I remember at this point. I'll have to research it
Yeah,
afterwards.
it's crazy having like influence and like I've been to events or whatever, and then like networking events, and I'll pitch a project, and people realize like I'm a good writer or whatever, and then like these beautiful women will be like, oh, "Does give me all this attention," and I'm just like, because they're actors, you know, and I'm just thinking like, man, if I wasn't a writer, you just would not give a shit about me. You just wouldn't give a fuck about me. And I keep that. I never forget that, you know. So like, I don't
Yeah,
get swept away and like believe that this girl actually likes me for me, you know. Like I'm not stupid. Um, I don't have any malice towards it either. I know what's going on. You know, everyone's just desperate. When you're like desperate for success, you don't. Your judgment's all messed up. So I get it. But yeah, man, you can't. You gotta be cognizant of that. How much influence you can have and power over impressionable, beautiful people, and you have to kind of like. I don't know. I think it's best not to. I don't know. I study men, powerful men, and how I feel like they fell because of letting themselves believe in um, how people want them or whatever. And I think it destroyed a lot of famous people.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, all through time,
Oh yeah.
all through time. Uh, all right. Let's move on. Question number 4. Um, this one I'm always really interested in these answers because they differ so
Hmm.
much from person to person. So, is there some collectible out there? It doesn't even have to be comic related. Some collectible
Oh.
that you let get away that you really really regret. Either something you had the chance to buy and didn't,
Mm.
um, or maybe something you held in your hand and put it back, or um, something you thought maybe was a little too much. For whatever reason. What's that one thing that got away?
Probably recently, when I got back into collecting, there I would sometimes go to Auction Ninja, right? Because it's like an auction house of estate sales, not
Right.
eBay, right? And I would look through that, and then I think nobody was on it. Like very, not a lot of like intense collectors were in there yet. So there was like one auction for like that DC presents that first Masters of the Universe and GI Joe 1 and like all these insane keys, and like the bidding was at like $120, and it was like almost done. I was just kind of like, but I would have to drive, you know, like 4 hours to go pick it up, and I was like, I don't want to burden my. And then I also had this theory like, oh, that once in a lifetime opportunity happens every other day, right? Like,
Right.
if you scan through eBay enough, you'll find that once in a lifetime all day long, you know. Um, so I thought, it'll happen again. But it never happened. Nothing like that ever happened again. Or if something like that does happen, it's like $1,000 or whatever. And then there was some Ultimate Fallout 4s I should have just bought before they exploded. And what else? Oh, Star Trek 1. There was like a beautiful copy of Star Trek 1, and I didn't get it by like $20 or whatever, but I should have just bid more because it was worth way more money. And and it looked like one of the best copies I've ever like knew existed or whatever. But whatever.
Yeah.
I have bigger regrets with all. I don't have many regrets, to be honest. I think
Oh yeah,
it's all learning. Like you learn from all of it, and any time if you make $100 mistake today, and you learn from it and don't get bitter, it could save you like $1,000 in a year. Like it's always like that, and everything horrible in your life had to happen to have any of your moments of bliss and ecstatic joy. All those horrible things had to happen in that pathway to get to that moment. Like, so it's all part of it, like I'm kind of a Taoist, like, yeah.
So then you probably, that gives me an idea what your answer to the next question is going to be. Is there anything that you've picked up over the years that you maybe wish you didn't? Something that you overpaid for, you let FOMO get the best of you and grab something and then got that buyer's remorse.
Yeah. I think every exclusive variant I've ever bought. I'm just like, I'm done with that shit. I'm just like, I don't know what the point is anymore. And at times, like, they're not even identifiable because they're not, like, cover A is the iconic cover, so like, and there are examples where cover A is more valuable to collectors than the exclusive whatever,
Right.
and they're charging up the ass, and like the shit didn't happen in the 90s. This is like new stuff, so it's like, oh, some of these variants are blah blah blah, and oh, cover buys. Like, no, people weren't doing that, and cover buys was not a thing. That's so weird. Like, to me, I'm like, okay, so the cover is the art. I was like, oh, you guys made up a whole new reason to buy comics. Wow. And then, men are buying multiple copies of the same thing, and they're just milking us. Like, instead of growing the audience, they're trying to make the same old audience buy multiple copies of the same book, like every issue. So I don't know if you remember, but variants used to be rare, once. Yeah, and now it's every freaking comic, every issue.
I feel the same way about the homage covers.
Oh yeah, you mean like alongside as variants?
Yeah. I mean, I'm not big on the variants, and and how many different Stray Dogs covers can they bring out?
Well, they're selling out all the time, right? And it's the whole cover buy thing. But I don't talk about this a lot because I know a lot of people are investing a lot of their money into this shit, but I think it's a fad. It's a fad.
100%.
And it's so yeah. I lost a lot of money doing that shit. So, and I'm trying to sell those, and me selling those variants like crazy.
It's when's that bubble going to burst?
Well, I actually think the canary in the coal mine is the superhero films. So once they do not make guaranteed returns, once it seems like, oh, they're as risky as a Western, or once we get there, then you're going to see a major collapse in prices, maybe like a 30-40% correction, I believe. And thus far, Avengers Endgame is the peak. Like, and so I don't want it to be the peak, but as of now, it is the peak. And it might be the peak. I don't know. It might be the peak. So it's a interesting time.
I think you're spot on with that. Yeah. I feel like you. I don't know if it's actually is the peak, but
I think it might be. I think there's like historical reasons why. I think Avengers Endgame introduced to the mainstream audiences the concept of you can bring people back to life, and there's time travel. Okay, so the time travel, people coming back from the dead. Okay, and now it's superfluous, and therefore the stakes are all been dropped a level. Like all stakes are dropped a level forever. And this happened in comics with the death of Superman. Because before the death of Superman, characters stayed dead. But after the death of Superman, everyone that died came back. Everyone started coming back because they saw how much money could be made. But it burned us out, and now they have to constantly reboot their universes. They don't know what the hell they're doing anymore. And I think one of the reasons because you get rid of death, you've gotten rid of your greatest drama, and you're just never gonna feel that intense emotion again, like we felt with Infinity War. Like when everyone died, you felt really, And I was like,
Right.
man, I remember when half the universe disappeared. I was like, oh shit, they're gonna bring everyone back and they're gonna destabilize the entire cinematic universe. Like it's going to, and that's why I think actually in the long term DC might start to do better than Marvel because they don't have this problem. They didn't fundamentally make the entire universe deathless with time travel. So because they're all different universes. Like DC's working under an Elseworlds model, in my opinion. They're all just like fuck it, we're gonna go Elseworlds, and that to me is a better strategy in the long term, in my opinion. We will see.
Yeah, sadly, that I agree. I would like to see a lot of Elseworld type films come out, but the general non-comic geek nerd community would just be confused as hell by that.
No, but they bought it, like Aquaman and Joker, especially Joker movie, right? The Joker movie. It was so obviously obviously like a completely new universe, unconnected to any of the Batman films, and people loved it because they let them do whatever. And Aquaman was way bigger than they expected. And the Batman with Matt Reeves, I think it seems very different, but I think audiences still want to do it. Whereas Marvel now is getting so much continuity shit, like that continuity fatigue is going to set in. I mean, they crammed 60 years of comic history into 10 years with these movies, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there's only like 20 years left. So they only got like a tiny window, and those stories, those were like fermented, they were like developed through hundreds of minds and refined to become the MCU, right? Because the initial runs, they're not like amazing. They're fun and they're creative and they're interesting, but they're not the greatest things ever. But the movies, people are like, oh, these are the greatest movies, whatever. But I think they shot their low. They went too far. I think they went too far. I if I was a story analyst there, I'd have told it. If I was in their teams, I'd have been like, you guys, let's really try not to undo death and time travel, because that will. Star Trek Into Darkness, they cured death. Spoilers. They cured death at the end, and that's it. No one watches the Star Trek shit anymore. Like, in the second film, Into Darkness, they cured death. Nobody watched the next film. It's because you're just kind of like, what? And it's weird because like we don't know it consciously. It's like an unconscious thing. You're like, oh, they cured death, huh? It kind of. I don't think they realize how what kind of effect this has. And they've essentially cured death. Anyone can come back in Marvel. The rules are way too all over the place.
Yeah, that sets the bar pretty high for everything else they have to do following.
I think Loki, the show, was trying to reset all of this. Just the way they always try to reboot, reset, reboot. But yeah, they're just doing it too much. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the next Deadpool movie will be the Telltale.
Yeah, could be.
See what they do with that one, because that's a franchise that they could probably put on autopilot and be box office success for them, anyways.
I know a lot of people are very optimistic about this stuff, but I'm just looking at history, and I'm not trying to be like a downer, and I'm very proud of what superhero films have done. Like, let's say we did peak, right? I'm very proud of what we did. I think we were the greatest new genre that's ever been, I would compare it to the rise of hip hop. Like it was just so fast and meteoric at once. And that's how the superhero genre became, like, kind of happened after Blade. I feel like Blade was the real told the studios, all right, let's really try this. Yeah, I know they did with Batman and Superman, but those are a little. I think they're a little bit of outliers from this current wave. Um, yeah, and it was a great run.
Yeah, it was a good run. We'll see, and hopefully it continues. I hope it does. I want to see some more good flicks come out. But
Yeah, yeah. But I think they're gonna start experimenting with. They have. I think they have to experiment with different approaches because it's all become, it's too predictable. Everything's too predictable. And that's it's just boring when things get predictable. After a while, you get bored of it, and I think that's why the Joker movie was so big. It was and for no money. Compared to the other films, that cost nothing. Because they went a different place or whatever.
yeah, and I know it was like $1 billion worldwide gross on that. So it was.
Yeah, I think it was like 50 million or some shit, like, which is like amazing. Like,
Yeah, yeah. Well, hopefully they're obviously trying to get some new character development out there, get characters out on the screen that people haven't seen before.
right.
So
Yeah, I mean, I hope King. I'm guessing he's the big bad, right? I know people say Galactus, but it feel like it's King, because of his like sign deal or whatever to be in so many movies. I think that's gonna be interesting. We're gonna see a black supervillain that, like, a master villain, and actually, like, if you look at the history of comics, there's rarely been a black master villain. It's usually a white guy, and a lot of us love the great villains. Actually, like, we admire them almost because they don't have powers most of the time, or they had to, like, use sheer willpower to be able to fight Superman. Like, gods. They go up against gods, and that's sort of like Satan and God, like Satan versus God. It doesn't make sense, right? So, but we love underdogs. There's something that resonates with us that it also tells anyone can do this if they just have the will. And traditionally, it's always been like a white man. So this to me is the first real big attempt to do a non-white, super, like, mastermind villain in the comic book movies, and that's exciting. And he's gonna play all these different versions of himself, so that's gonna be fun. They gotta, I don't know. We'll see what happens. But I think that's the most fascinating thing about it. Because they could have made him purple, right? They didn't make, yeah, right. So it's either been a white guy or a purple man, right? So it's the first time we have a black man doing this. I mean, they did that with the Daredevil film, but that doesn't count. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that was with the Daredevil film. Oh, but
Yeah,
yeah,
I forgot that guy's name. He passed away, but he would
Michael
play.
Clark
Oh
Duncan.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, M. Night did that with Glass, with his little superhero universe. He made Samuel Jackson the mastermind supervillain, and it was very effective, And, like, he's one of your favorite characters. I mean, especially in Unbreakable. I don't know if you saw
yeah,
that film in theaters, Unbreakable. Yeah,
I did.
because
Yeah,
yeah, because the marketing was, is this man a ghost? Why is he alive? The
yeah.
marketing of the film was like, is he a ghost? And you're like, all right, let's watch this ghost movie. And I remember sitting in the theater, slowly realizing, oh my god, this is a fucking superhero movie. Oh my god, this is a superhero movie. And
I
then
had
it just keeps
same reaction.
happening. And it's over. I'm like, holy shit. Someone made a great superhero movie. I couldn't believe I couldn't believe what I had witnessed. But it wasn't as big as it should have been, I think. But that, to me, when that came out, that was the greatest superhero film I'd ever seen, and I couldn't believe it.
Yeah, and that's something that definitely a film most people don't talk about when superhero films are brought up.
Oh, it's such a superhero. It's such a love letter too to superheroes, to comics, and it's got these incredible characters, incredible twist. And then realizing he's making this universe, and Glass, whatever. The ending sucked, but I was like, hey, this is bold. This is reminding me of reading like a Vault series, like a series from Vault
Yeah.
or Boom, or like if I was like, this is cool, man. At least he's going for it. At least he's trying, and he's doing it like his own way. And I feel like too many of the they're all trying to copy each other too much. And I feel like M. Night was one of the few people that didn't do that. And so I like super appreciate how M. Night did that. And also Nolan, what Nolan did with the Batman films. I was just like, holy fuck, dude. This Batman Begins, man, it made me cry. It was the first superhero film that made me cry. I didn't cry when I watched Spider-Man, or I don't know. I wasn't that moved by Spider-Man when that came out. I was just like, oh, okay.
We've been rambling about a lot of different topics here. Have we skipped any books that you had to show that were relevant to any of these last few questions?
Well,
I know you brought a stack
yeah, I
out
mean,
with you.
I just wanted to talk about Sandman in terms of like non-genre. You can't put
Yeah,
Sandman's hard to put into a genre.
yeah.
Promethea from Alan Moore.
I love Promethea. Yeah.
Yeah, incredible. And like, all this like hippy dippy shit is super popular now. Every millennial's into this shit now. But like in '99, Alan Moore was like introducing it to the world, and no one took it as seriously as it. Now every millennial takes it as seriously as Alan Moore, but he was taking it seriously like over 20 years ago.
Right.
And this is so much like Sandman, actually. It almost feels like Alan Moore was homaging Neil Gaiman, almost. Because I think he was just kind of sick of superheroes at that point. And Tom Strong is like a series. Tom Strong I was considering for series I would live with forever or whatever, because it's also standalone issues. Some of the stories are so profound, and it's a masterclass. It's a masterclass in comic book writing of like how you write an issue of a comic. Like any issue is a masterclass. Whereas like today, sometimes you read a comic, you're like, man, that was such a filler bullshit issue. Like such a waste of money and time. But Alan Moore doesn't let that happen. Every issue. It's just,
even his filler issues have substance.
oh yeah, incredible. They're incredible. No, I don't think he has filler issues. Like I don't think Alan Moore writes filler issues. In fact, I
always thought every once in a while he threw one in just to kind of give you a break from what.
Oh, sure, but his filler issues were like profound too. Right?
They were planned fillers just to get you away from
the main thread or whatever. But
right.
But they would have so much poignancy.
It was out of things to talk about or write about.
Yeah, and then but like nowadays you get a filler issue, you're like, dude, nothing happened. Like this it's just sidetracked everything. I didn't learn anything. I don't feel like I'm a different. Like Alan Moore makes me feel like I'm a different person after I'm done reading his stuff. I'm like, oh man, I feel like I know the world a little differently. Like Gaiman too, and the Brits, those motherfucking Brits from the '80s. That whole wave, that British wave of incredible writers.
Yeah, a modern filler feels like it's something that's been regurgitated from, either that same storyline or stolen directly from somebody else's story. And
and like actually Alan Moore back then, the top 10, he does a sequel, and it's like a fantasy world thing, right? And the meta fantasy right now, it's so popular. Everyone's writing like meta fantasy and post-apocalyptic. That's like a big indie thing right now. But Alan Moore did it like masterfully 20 years ago, and it's better. A lot of it's better than what's out right now. But he didn't get any credit. No one read that shit back when he did it. And that's why I made those videos kind of showing the world that, oh, Alan Moore did this better 20 years ago. Go borrow it from your library for free and check it out. And in fact, I theorize like he actually influenced what we're reading now, and all these writers, they all read I think they read Alan Moore shit, and were so influenced by it that you know they took the baton, and but some of them
Right.
aren't, they're not sprinters yet, they still need to, they didn't even stretch, you gotta stretch. Don't just fucking.
Don't just take it, but try and run cold, right?
I don't know, I'm writing a comic too, right? So I'm gonna have a series coming out very soon. There's like 3 pages left and a cover, but and it's a 24-page comic, and yeah, we'll see. Like if I suck, then I suck. But especially people that are like super harsh with their criticisms, I'm always like, yeah, why don't you make a comic, motherfucker? Then you'll know. Like, I
Yeah.
mean, because when you're creating a comic and you're like putting all your heart into it, you never know if it's good. You don't even know. You're just like, I gotta just do this. I don't even, because if you think it's good, it's probably, maybe it's not so good. Like any real artist, like they're not totally sure, but they want to be searching. And then like the public that never made a thing ever is like, oh, this is trash. I'm like, damn though, like, but that person did try really hard. Like, like maybe don't shit on them that hard. Just say, or I don't know, but
And on the other
critics.
hand, you can let somebody proofread for you, and they say, "Oh man, this is great, this is awesome," and you think, are they just blowing smoke up my ass, or do they really like it?
Yeah, that's, well, I think I've been fortunate, uh as like, so I've been a writer my whole life, and but I've grew up around like other writers that mostly white people, and they got a lot of praise, and they like take the identity of a writer. I'm a writer, and they love being a writer and all this stuff, and they love they love praise. Like a lot of people like praise, or they have parents that were supportive and gave them praise. And most Asian parents, they do not give any praise ever, like never. So we're not used to it at all. And generally speak, I'm generalizing like crazy, right? I'm not. I know there's like counter examples, but what was my point? Oh, yeah. So I don't take any compliments seriously, like at all. It's like I hear them and they're great, but sometimes you notice people give compliments to certain people because they're unconsciously aware that they want that compliment. Like there's a certain way of like giving your work where the other person almost psychically knows that, oh, they need a compliment. They don't need my harsh ass criticism. Or if there's harsh ass criticism, it's because they're jealous. So this happens, like, and that also happens, right? I'll be like hard. Sometimes when I write something that's really good, and the people are like, wow, this is really good, I'll guarantee you one person is gonna shit on it, and part of that is they wish they wrote it or something, or they hate that I'm
Right.
not like pretending to be a writer, telling everyone I'm a writer. Like I don't do this whole identity shit of being a writer, and like I work as a barista. Like I'll go to a penthouse party with rich people and tell them principles of creativity in life, and they're like, "Wow, who are you? Do you work for a magazine?" I'll be like, "No, I'm a barista," and I just like walk away, just like mess with you. I'm like, "Yeah, I'm a fucking barista, bro." Because I don't like how people are pretentious. I hate pretentiousness, to be honest, and pretentious people almost imply they want that, you know, feedback. I know artist kids that have super supportive parents, and that now today they're crippled. They have no idea what's going on because the world is not giving them the praise their parents did. They have total self doubt. They have no idea where they're coming from. Whereas, and it's, and a little support is good, but the positive of no support is that, you just get enough of it. You're like, okay, it's real. Oh, is this real? I don't know if this. You just like question if it's real, and then you're like, oh, this is real. Whereas like if you're used to praise, you're like, oh, they liked it. Oh, and I've met awesome people that are really smart and kind and wise, but they got so much positive feedback because they're beautiful or something that um they actually they don't have that tough skin anymore, and they have no idea where they're at. They're like completely in doubt, and I don't know. I have tricks on how to remove doubt from the equation as an artist that I teach, because I'm also like a life coach, and I teach other artists and certain celebrities how to navigate the world of fame and stuff like that. I don't know. That's like a side thing.
When you're not packaging comic books to ship for grading
Or tamping coffee to give you a latte, a soy latte with. Here's your
Do
soy
you get
latte.
the little fern in it?
Oh yeah,
For the
hey.
milk?
Not only that, like it's my choice to work in these like low menial jobs. Like I've been offered more money to be a consultant. I've been done consulting work, so I can make way more money doing that. But I like being on that ground level, and I like watching people judge me as less than or like less capable because I'm a barista. Like I like it, like because I'm like, wow, these people are treated this way, like because if I was pretentious and famous writer, I'm going around and being a writer, everyone treats you with this extra respect that I don't think is necessarily fair or real. Whereas I get disrespected so often because of my status. It keeps me more connected to everyone, rather than just like sticking with my own milieu and thinking like I'm the shit. And I don't need that. That doesn't help me. That doesn't make me grow. I want to know what it's like on the ground level. And like I
Keeps you
don't
grounded.
even, yeah, and I don't need to hear the opinions of my own peoples or whatever, because it's boring, man. It's all regurgitated bullshit. I want to hear. I'd rather hear the opinions of a racist, right? I'd rather hear the opinions of a homophobic person actually, like, and dig into it. And I will have conversations with people I don't agree with completely, but I never hate them because I know it's coming from somewhere. Like whether it's fear or whatever it is, So I like to engage all kinds of people, and also like see everyone as like my age. So like, you can be a giant dude that looks like scary and tough, but I will just be like, all right, you were 12, I was 12, we used to be 12, we are 12, and I'm gonna engage you like we're both 12. And just by just like using, like really getting that feeling in my mind, they can sense it, and then like I'll have a giant tough guy just melt and become a little kid again, like suddenly, because everyone's used to seeing this giant tough guy as a giant tough guy, right? I will simply
Right.
be like, nope, you're a 12-year-old. I'm a 12-year-old. I'm gonna talk to you like you're a 12. I'll do that with old people, young. Like I talk to everyone like we're exactly the same age, and they love it. Especially like because everyone judges everyone and puts each other in a box, and then we end up talking to each other in different ways. But when you remove the boxes and you just engage with people like they're exactly like you, you see the child in everyone has a child in them. You see it come emerge, and that's how you get real progress. Like yelling at people doesn't do shit. In fact, it prevents people from changing. It makes it worse. It's better to connect. Like if you want to talk to someone on the other end of the political spectrum, connect on 100 things first about, how you make bread, or, what kind of toast you like butter over margarine, like, like visiting your grandparents, whatever. Connect on 100 things that you will fucking connect on. And then don't talk about the issue. Don't bring up facts and figures. Tell stories related to the issue. Tell your own personal human stories, and get that person to actually think about what you're saying rather than acting like I'm better than you. Like I'm sick of this, because so I've been a uber liberal before it was cool. Okay, so now it's cool, and I'm like, no, you bitches didn't give a shit. You same bitches act like you know everything. You're better than other people. You were the same. You weren't in this. I remember because I was there. You guys didn't give a shit. So I hate this high horse shit, and because I'm as left as it gets, but I do not hate on anyone like that. Like I think it's the same as racism to do that, to hate someone on the political spectrum. Like I don't think people should do that. It doesn't make sense.
Absolutely.
Like even feminism, right? Men have to get in. Like you need men to be convinced of ultimately to actually do the full shift, you know, like at some point. But if you just, you know, I don't know.
So what comic was that we were talking about?
Tom Strong. Yeah.
Are you ready for another keyword?
Oh yeah, sure.
So far we've got strawberry, screwdriver.
Yep.
Next keyword is more.
Like Alan Moore? No, I'm kidding.
I'm just giving you the word. You can spell it any way you want.
Oh, like a more. Or a more. Like the, you know, like a Othello. Othello, or a small hill, or gimme.
That just opens up the possibilities for you there.
All right.
Got a lot of ways to go with that one.
Got it. Yeah, the more. I think they're, wow, Muslims. That's what the more. It's an old word.
Yeah. What movie was that? Where it was something Martin Lawrence movie.
Big Mama's House.
No, where he's working at like King Arthur's type amusement park, and he goes back in time, and he's actually in King Arthur's.
Oh, Martin Lawrence. You said?
Yeah.
He did that?
Yeah, and they keep the king keeps calling him, or people in the court calling him more through the whole time. And he doesn't understand the reference.
Man, I feel like I saw that movie. That was a 90s film, right? That had to be a 90s film.
Yeah, probably, maybe early 2000s.
Early 2000s.
Could have been. All right, we're both on computers. We can look it up, right? Because that's going to drive me nuts. Martin Lawrence Knight movie. Black Knight.
Black Knight. When was that?
2001.
2001. Holy moly.
Yep, you got to catch it. It was kind of funny.
Wow. So that really uplifted you after September 11th.
Or
was it before September 11th?
Honestly, I didn't see. I saw it way after the fact, probably on HBO or.
Okay.
No time. I wouldn't have went to the movies to see that one.
Interesting.
Maybe it's 2002. One of the two. I see two different dates here. So, Black Knight, Martin Lawrence.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I was gonna say The Matrix is such a pre 9/11 film. Like you couldn't have made that after 9/11, or at least you'd have to wait a while before you can go into a lobby and just blow all these innocent people away, and then go like, yeah, you know, like that was when we were so desensitized. And
yeah, a lot of things changed, that's for sure. All right, on to probably my favorite question of the interview. Who are your favorite artists?
I will say the ones that really moved me, like actually moved me through reading comics like the most often, right? I would say like John Cassidy, right? He did Planetary, actually. He's done X-Men. He's done all kinds of work, but it's not your tradition. It's like, it reminds me of Kirby because no one draws like John Cassidy. Like, no one draws like him, and it's so unique. And it's his own thing. He's not copying anyone. Some people might not like it, but I think it's great. And Steve Dillon, I miss him. He passed away. He did Preacher. I loved his work. I can name Kirby, but honestly, I didn't read, like, it wasn't like, you know, every week I'm going to get moved by Kirby. You know, I love Kirby, of course, but
did Dylan do the whole series of Preacher? Because I did read a lot of those. I've had pretty close to a whole full run, but I didn't pay that much attention to who the artist was.
Yeah, he
Oh,
did.
it was Garth Ennis's.
Enos and Dylan, and then
Okay.
Dylan did the Punisher run with Enos after Preacher was done. And then he passed away like 3 years, four. I don't know. He passed away very recently. Um, and yeah, I like them both because they are doing their own thing. No one is like them. They're totally unique, and they can still tell a damn story. They're really good at telling a story, making it very clear for the reader, but yet still being evocative. Um, I can name like the Image guys or whatever, but it just became like overkill. The Image guys, and then they're all like half of them are copying the other half of them. They're all like so influencing each other so hard that yeah, I'm kind of like I don't know, but you don't know who influenced Cass. You don't know why Dylan draws like Dylan, and that's what I like, the mystery of
Right.
that kind of style, those styles they do.
So do you have much in the way of original art, whether it's
Not.
published work or sketch covers or anything of that nature?
I have a little sketch from Bill Plimpton. I have a little sketch from Sergio Aragonis. I also have a lot of signature sketches from a lot of super indie people that I would go, like. So I would go to MochaCon in New York, Museum of Cartoon and Comic Art Festival,
Okay, never
and
heard of that one.
yeah, the Mocha Festival. It's called MOCCA, and it's all indie. It's like not just indie, but like alternative indie, right? So at least last time I went, there's like no cosplay. There's like no cosplay at these things, right? Because it's not about the superhero genre whatsoever. But there's some people that make superhero shit, but it's not really what it's about. But like Art Spiegelman will show up, like Adrian Tomine will show up, like all these like really Chris Ware. I mean, they didn't really show up to Mocha, but I'm like people like them show up, right? And then you meet a lot of these brand new creators, and they're like 19, 20, right? And so I'll go Friday, I'll buy like everyone's books that looks interesting, I'll read it all, I'll come back Saturday, talk to everyone about their book, and they love it, and then I get to know these kids, and then they draw like amazing images for me, and I cherish all that stuff. Anything given to me as a gift or written on, that's like the only stuff I don't really give away. But I'll give away everything. Like I gave away that Avengers, not event, yeah, Avengers Annual 10, right? Right, that's the one, the key. I gave that shit away as in an AOK. Like I don't give a fuck. Like if it doesn't have like human resonance of someone I know or someone I met, it doesn't have as much value necessarily. Monetary value is not really the thing for me. It's sort of sentimental, but
Right.
yeah,
It's got to have value, but just a different type of value.
yeah. And then like I also know this famous painter, but I knew her before she was super famous, and she gave me like a little painting or whatever before, and I have that, and that's amazing. And I guess I don't know,
So
stuff like
you
that.
got anything handy you can show off?
Uh, Not exactly. I didn't think any of it was like show worthy, because it's so small, and I don't know.
It's there's no piece of artwork too small. That's for sure.
But I don't have like pay like I was thinking about getting original work. I read Orphan and the Five Beasts recently. Did you read that book from Dark
No,
Horse?
nope, have not.
By like I think Stucco or something, but his work is incredible. Like the art is incredible. James Stucco, I think his name is. Orphan and the Five Beasts. Details like everywhere, and I looked him up because today a lot of artists it's all digital actually. A lot
Yes.
of artists all digital.
So yeah,
So
Stokoe. Yeah, James.
yeah, but he still sells original art. So I was actually considering buying his work because it's just so much work in it. You can see the work.
Right.
Because as the days go on, there's going to be less and less original art, and really it's going to be these sketch covers. I guess sketch covers will start really rising to the fore because original art doesn't exist like it just doesn't really exist
Not
anymore.
like it used to. There's so much of it's digital now.
Yeah, from the ground up digital, you know? Like then inkers almost they've been wiped out almost. There's like very few inkers now because it's digital. The penciler is the inker for the most part a lot of times. Did you notice that? There's like no inkers in the
Yeah.
credits anymore. And
Um,
yeah, it's the weird thing about digital. Like, and people start taking other people's jobs by accident. You know, I have this editor friend. He's a multi-million-dollar company editor person. You know, and he showed me how to make my YouTube videos sound better. You know, like he's like, yeah, bring it into Audition. You do this. This is what I do. And I'm like, oh wow, that's incredible. Thank you. You know, and then I'm like thinking like, but wait a minute, that's not your job. That's the sound designer. Like, you've gotten rid of the other person's job because you did their job for them and you're getting paid the same. You're not even making more money doing this. Damn, dude, we're like really shooting ourselves in the foot this way. And sound designer's better than you too. I mean, it's not like an inker's gonna be better than me at inking if I'm a penciler. I don't know. You understand what I'm saying.
But yeah, come back to what you said about the no colorist anymore.
Inker.
Or sorry, yeah, inker. Well, and not many colorists anymore because they're all again computer colored. And Image is one of the people that or groups that really really started that trend. I know they weren't the first. I used to know what the first digitally colored book was, but I can't remember.
Akira issue 1
Was actually the first digitally colored.
Yes.
But you know that Ollie Optics that Image used was the big. Everybody thought that was awesome back in the 90s. You know, the colors were so great. You know, Ollie Optics is the best ever. Not realizing that's just one more step of human interaction removed from the comic book process.
Yeah, I mean, it's incredible. Yeah, I'm not really an artist. I'm a writer, so I'm always amazed. I mean, by all of it, and I don't want to be a part of any of it. I was like, I do not want to learn and figure it out.
Ollie Optic, Digital Chameleon, I think, was the other one that they used to do their digital coloring.
And lettering has been transformed too with Richard Starking and his work. So I mean, I actually letter my comics. You know, and I try to be good about it. Like I don't fuck around. I know the theory of lettering and all that stuff. I studied all that too. I'm not gonna do a half-ass lettering job. It's like bad sound in a film. It just makes everything look cheap. If you're like, the art can be beautiful, you could have the best story, but if the lettering sucks, it just feels cheap.
If you can't read it, what's the sense? Yeah.
Or just like if it just doesn't look right, you know, you feel like it feels amateur. Like,
yeah. If I've got a strain to read it, that's because it's in a font. You know, it's lettered in a way that just makes it tough to read. Half the time I can't do it. I just got to put it down.
I've been noticing word balloons with not like pointed ends, but like squared off. You know, tails.
Yeah.
Recently, in a lot of comics, I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah. I mean, just different. Over the years, I've seen lots of different styles of those word balloons.
There was a comic called Home. I don't know if you know about this comic, Home Image. It's about like Mexican illegal immigrants trying to come here and like detained, and then this kid has powers, right?
Okay, it's a new book.
New book, pretty new, really new. It's still going. Like I think the last issue's coming. But they did a thing where when they speak Spanish, the letters were red. And instead of that bracketed shit, and I was like, "Oh, that's so much better." That was so much better. It was so much more fluid. I was like, "Oh, now," and I don't have to like. It felt like I was reading Spanish because it was red, and I was like, "How come no one fucking thought of that?" Like, and I thought that was brilliant. So like, and I'm gonna copy them whenever if I have foreign language, it's gonna be red instead of because I don't like that bracket. That bracket stuff confuses me. To be honest, it kind of throws me out. You know?
Yeah, or if you go in italics or a different font, then you
Yeah.
get back to that. You're making it harder to read now.
Yeah, but when it's red, I'm like, oh, like I instantly know it intuitively. It feels very intuitive.
Right.
So I thought that was really cool.
Yeah. No, I may look into that series then. That sounds.
Oh, it's intense. It's pretty intense. And there's one issue left. I mean, I get the trade is coming too. You can wait for the trade, or but also I think all the issues are available at discounts because it didn't really sell like crazy. So, but I think it has potential to turn into something. So there's a couple of projects no one's specking on, but I am. You know, um, like Shadow Doctor. That's a book I was specking on that no one's specking on because I'm like, there is no way this is not becoming a movie. This is
Oh, I like that first cover.
Shadow Doctor.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's about a true story of a black doctor that ended up working in a secret gangster clinic for Al Capone. I'm just like, how are you not going to turn that into a movie? And it was like because he was black, the only job he could really get was being a gangster healer for Al Capone. You know, I'm like, that's amazing.
Yeah. Well, both of there's two different covers for number one, and they're both.
It's a true story. It's a true story. That's the thing. That's like
Yeah, I'm
but
definitely picking that one up.
but it didn't end very well. It ended very abruptly, and it was a little anticlimactic, like super anticlimactic. It was sort of jarring the ending, but if they make a TV series, I know they're gonna make like, you know, that kind of ending, you know, like a big ass ending. Um, but in my opinion, there's no way they're not making this into a film. Because I'm a filmmaker, right? Like I look at these things like that, and I'm like, this is just, it's a win. That's a win. Bloodshot, I don't know. I don't know if Bloodshot's gonna work, but Shadow Doctor's gonna work as a film. You know, I don't even know if something killing the children is gonna work as a property. To be honest, like I don't know if the public has a stomach to watch children being mutilated, and part of the charm of something is killing the children is watching children getting mutilated. Like that's like you can't have that project if you don't show children getting mutilated.
And they can't do that and have it be mainstream. It's got to be off screen and left to your imagination. So
Yeah, but it's not the same then, you know?
No.
Because that's sort of what made it what it is that we get to watch children get mutilated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I kind of wondered about that myself when they said it was when it first came out. You know, sadly, the way it is today, every book you read, you say, well, how would this look on the big screen? You know, what kind of a pilot would this make?
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. And there's a lot of screenwriters, like Aftershock, it seems like they're all screenwriters, you know? So, like, they're going from that space into comics. And I know, like, in the 90s, it was like, people were like, don't write comics for movies. Don't do that. But now it's, like, happening for sure. There's no question. Boom, especially, is doing that. Aftershock is doing that. I don't know. But then, you know, that's why I want to read Chris Ware. Do you know Chris Ware?
No.
He did Jimmy Corrigan, The Smartest Kid on Earth. I don't know if you remember that book. Very famous graphic novel. Jimmy Corrigan, The Smartest Kid on Earth. Chris Ware. Ware is Ware.
Yep.
And his work, it looks like Peanuts cartoons, but it's about really sad, lonely, depressed people with deep traumas because of horrible family lives, right? But it's done in this playful Peanuts cartoon way, right? If you make that, it can't be live action. It's like if you actually shot that shit, it's too depressing and hopeless. But in the way he draws it, you'll be there. You'll go through it, and you'll learn the beauty of like suffering. Not that suffering is beautiful, but that people that suffer are also beautiful, right? You know what I mean? So. And I don't think you can translate that. So that to me is like a comic you cannot translate. I'm all for it. I like that kind of stuff too. Like, yeah. Like I think Lila Star that came out recently, that's going to be really hard to translate. Sandman.
I've seen that one.
Yeah. Sandman's really hard to translate. but they're gonna try, right? They finished, they wrapped. Yeah, and Alan Moore, he made Watchmen, so it could not be turned into a film. There's because comics offer a lot of unique story possibilities that film almost can't do. So, because like VO sucks in a movie, right? But in a comic, you read the person's thoughts. It feels good. It's like it works a lot of times. But in a movie, it almost never works. It's annoying, because movies are very visual. Comics are really in between. Like they can be,
Yeah.
Or the stuff that Ed Piskor is doing, Red Room. You can't make Red Room a movie, right? And he's making a comic that's a comic that's a comic. There's no way that's becoming a movie.
So is that like a fifth and sixth wall?
Yeah, and it's they're have you seen their channel? The channel he has with cartoonist Kfab, him and Jim Rugg, and they're great. They're famous indie artists, alternative comic people, but they do a YouTube channel every week. They're like going over like Todd McFarlane's work and how Todd McFarlane influenced them or whatever, and you can just see, like, you can almost feel all the lines, right? You can almost you feel connected to these creators when you read their work, because you feel the line work. You feel, whereas like if I read Batman with Jimenez's art, like it's good and all, but I don't feel it. It feels like a product given to me. Whereas a lot of alternative indie, I can't say indie anymore. I have to say like alternative to even describe what I'm saying, where it's like, blocks of text and like just a person standing there and like talking about how everything sucks, and then the next image is like just like a piece of like cauliflower and like talking about grandma or something, like that kind of shit.
I think that's one
it's so
reason
personal.
I was always into painted art, as opposed to the traditional penciled ink and colored. I like if it was watercolor or oil, whatever it may be. But you get one of those painted books, and you can tell right away. It just seems like there's more feeling into the artwork.
Yeah, like when that Kingdom Come came out.
Yeah,
I read that off the stands, and I was just like, what the hell? It was like almost like a vision of the best comic book movies that almost never came yet. Like Nolan was like the closest almost to reaching that Kingdom Come, or even the Joker movie felt a little like that, but Kingdom Come was just out of this world. Like,
it's like Bunny Mask that's out now.
Right? Yeah. Moody with the watercoloring.
Right, all watercolor. I've got
with the watercolor issues.
I just bought 2 more pages from Bunny Mask off.
Oh.
So I love the artwork in that. But I like story too, but I just love the watercolor work he does.
I think Bunny Mask is also hard to turn into a film. You can try, but it's gonna be like too confusing for audiences.
Well, yeah, we got to see how they wrap up the first story arc, and maybe it'll, all make sense, and they might be able to do it. But so far, I don't see any way they could.
Yeah, because it jumps around too much. Like the producers are gonna be like, it's because the producer wants the experience of the film to be like understood and known within that 2-hour segment of time. Right. But a comic, we have all day long to read the issue, reread the issue, go back and reread the last issue because you forgot what the hell happened. Time changes the way we receive the work. I think we need to emphasize that more as comic book people to grow grow this industry, because the mainstream normie is going to look at, oh, this movie costs $3.99 to rent. Why would I get a comic that only gives me 15 minutes? That's how they're seeing it, time and money, right? That's how they see it. But what they're not realizing is no, we fuck with time. Time doesn't really exist in comics. Like, time is superfluous, and you can go back and see new things and and you control the time. It's so different than film, which is a passive experience. You just like watch it and it happens to you. But comics, you make comics happen. I think we need to emphasize this to grow, the audiences and stuff. Oh shit! You got the Delta. You got that Delta?
No, it's. I think it's from that buy.
Uh-oh.
Went down the wrong pipe. What else do you collect?
Right.
Anything besides comics? I mean, what else is?
Oh, I forgot. Shit. Yeah. I went crazy with watches.
Nice.
Yeah, I went a little nuts on watches, and I have all these like vintage watches, but nothing crazy expensive. But I stopped because it just was getting out of control. Mm-hmm. And I have an addictive personality, to be honest.
Same.
So I just go cold turkey on a lot of stuff, and but the watch I wear now is it's a mechanical, automatic. You know about automatic watches, right? So almost no millennial has ever heard of an automatic watch, and even people born in the 80s have never heard of automatic watches. They don't comprehend what they are. But before quartz, all watches were automatic, where you move it and there's a rotor. And every time you move, the rotor shakes and winds up the gear, and then the watch continuously moves from your motion. And this is actually like a $500 watch, right? But and I wear like whatever, right? But I love it because I power it, and it's not perfect, right? Because mechanical watches are imperfect. Right. They're never as accurate as quartz. That's why they almost went down. But making them has become easier, I guess. So they're cheaper than they've really ever been too. And I think a good automatic. I just love watches.
So do you have a one of those fancy cases you put your automatics in, the shake table to keep them all wound?
No. I didn't go that far. And then I found out later, I have like visions sometimes. So I had a vision where like the Dalai Lama was there, and it told me like, oh, Dalai Lama wears like a Rolex. I was like, what? And I was like, why? And he's like, why do you wear watches? I was like, oh, I like how when I move it like moves, and he's like, that's why he likes watches. I was like, what? And then I looked it up. I didn't know this about, like, I get visions with information I didn't know. And I confirmed the information later on. And he wears a Rolex. He says if he wasn't the Dalai Lama, he would have become a mechanical engineer. And he likes the engineering and the whole, like, that's why he wears a Rolex. Because it's sort of counterintuitive to who the Dalai Lama is or whatever. But they're gifts. A lot of them are just gifts. And he's not going to just, but he doesn't go seek out Rolexes, right? Just famous people give him Rolexes, and he loves what they are. That's just like people tinkering, and it moves with you. Your emotion makes it run, and then when you don't move, it dies, and then it, and it can go again or not, or
right,
stuff like that.
Yeah, I've got a lot of watches, though I seldom wear them. Lots of pocket watches that I've bought flea markets and estate sales and whatnot over the years. And, smart watches, I guess, probably everybody's got at least one smart watch.
No, I don't have those.
Really?
Yeah. I'm just not. Well, first of all, I discovered automatic mechanical watches. I discovered they existed not even like 5 years ago. Like I didn't even know they existed, So once I knew they existed and the history behind them, I was just like, what the fuck? I was like, what? It was like the value of my 90s books, right? I just couldn't believe it. So
wait a minute. It doesn't take batteries and you don't have to wind it?
Yeah. And kids can't believe it. When I show people, I'm like, oh yeah, I tell them what it is. They like can't believe it. And I have to, open it up, show them the back, and they're looking at it, they're like, what? I'm like, yeah, this is old tech. This is like super old tech that used to be everywhere.
A lot of people don't know you used to have to wind a watch.
Yeah. I got those too. I got those winding watches, and like those old Hamiltons and whatever, back in the day they would cost a fortune for like a regular salary man or whatever.
Yeah.
But they're like nothing. They don't cost shit. No one gives a fuck about these watches. So they're nothing. I mean, but to fix them, you have to pay like 10 times the value of the watch to get them fixed because there's no more people that know how to fix them, horologists. And then I also have like stones, but I'm not like, so people have stones and shit, and because this does this and this does that, so I don't necessarily believe in any of that. For me, it's objects can have power because you give them the power. Like, it's not that the object has the power given to you, right? You power the object. And I think like icons, even like an image of David Bowie, right, becomes its own symbol, power. It's sort of like chaos magic kind of stuff or whatever. So I have certain objects from certain locations, or like if someone tells me this rock is good for whatever the fuck, I'm like, all right, I'll believe that. And then that's why it works, because I believe it does that, not because you told me, And then I have a rock from a famous Buddhist temple where I had like a vision that was like sort of corroborated in an actual, like I was just like, what? This crazy vision that still makes sense or whatever. Because Buddhists have been talking about an infinite multiverse, like a multiverse, for over 2,000. Buddhists have been talking about this, yeah. And now physicists are starting to believe this might be the case. This might actually be the reality of the situation. Many physicists, and I can like badly explain 3 of the theories, but Buddhists have been already talking about this. Yeah. And I had a vision where I met the multiverse Buddha called the Vairocana. I didn't know I never heard this person, but I was like, it told me it was the multiverse Buddha and that there are infinite Earths. And every time I almost died, I did die. And I'm on this every time all of us almost died, we did die on an alternate Earth. We're on the Earth where we happen to be alive. And like, cause we shouldn't, our life is so improbable. It's almost impossible, but we are all on Earth 4613. And is it for nothing? I don't know. I don't believe it is. I think we're on 4613 for a reason. Otherwise you just wouldn't be here, because it's just unlikely that you're even here. Anyway, this Buddha, I met this Buddha. I didn't know there was a multiverse Buddha at all. And then I went to and I went to sleep in a car, and I woke up at a temple, and I was like, what happened? They're like, oh yeah, we just drove to this temple. I was like, okay, famous temple in Korea. I see this Buddha figure. I instantly recognize this is the Buddha from my vision. I'm like, what the fuck? And it says, and I'm like, what is this? And I read Vairocana, Cosmic Buddha. I'm like, what the fuck? And then I look it up, and it's like, it's the same Buddha that I met in the vision that I never knew about. And also I've been sort of reliving the enlightenment moments of a famous Korean monk person. And I've been told since I was very young that I'm like this person, and that I've been reliving his like he learned an enlightenment thing with a cup of water that I also learned the same thing when I was 13. And we have almost the same mission and everything. And I just thought, nah, I'm not a monk. Fuck that, right? And then it was only after like these visions started to manifest that I looked up that guy. It turns out he also quit. He said, fuck that, and drank and danced and lived with commoners and unified all the various Buddhist texts that didn't corroborate each other. He unified them by like with brilliant use of language and stuff to teach everyone Buddhism, and not he hated the priest class, right? He's a folk hero. I also do not like the priest class. I reject being a monk, even though theoretically, like, I follow a lot of their whatever. And I've been also trying to unify all the different religions to teach atheists purpose without making them believe in anything. That's been part of my mission, actually. Without making them believe. That's the trick. And I was told in a vision that the religious leaders have all failed us, so I have to do it through fiction, using fiction as a thing that you know is not real, to teach you a truth that you will believe in with all your heart, right? So, like a superhero story that's very compelling, none of that's real. You know that's not real, but the story's compelling enough, you can learn something, a truth about life. And I think that's the key, really. You gotta create fiction that is so powerful that it can move mountains with ideas, and yeah, and we can all do that because we're all one, and blah blah blah.
Fiction has definitely been a very effective and efficient vehicle throughout history. I mean,
Oh yeah, especially now or anytime like totalitarianism is on the rise, truth becomes very destabilized. So everyone like picks a truth. Truth is really broken. Like right now, it's a little broken because we had too many authoritarians in the world, and this is historically this happens all the time. This is a cyclical thing. But when that happens, it's the role of the artist to tell the truth because through art, because truth is broken. We can't. No one knows what the hell is going on anymore. And through art, you can have that shared. That's what the surrealists were doing. Like they were so devastated by World War One and how all modern man and modern thinking, all this smart shit got all these people murdered, right? And they're like, wow, we don't know what the fuck we're doing. So they started doing automatic writing and like channeling and just like coming up with new ways because they thought, you know what, we just gotta go back. We gotta go back to that primal aesthetic and because we are not as smart as we think we are, right? And no, and yeah, and really like true wisdom is knowing like the exact opposite of what you believe might be true, and the truth is usually like somewhere in between, and that's how you become wise. But if you think you're right, all the time, or you know everything, like, well, you're done. Good for you. You know everything. Good for you. You know, you have nothing more to learn. You know, and that sucks. That's what is that?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Very true. Very true. And you know what else is scary? I collect rocks. Not anymore. I used to. I used to be a rock. I used to be a big rock hound.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Like geology kind of.
Just I wanted a rock from everywhere I went, just for whatever reason, you know, because it was an interesting rock, or just because I liked the place I was at and I saw a rock on the ground, or. But yeah, I used to be a rock hound. Just to.
Dude, honestly, like I'll just be in the woods. I'll see like a rock like this next to a rock like this, or no, let me give you a better example. Like a rock like this, right? And then I'm like, wait, those two rocks are so different that it has to have taken millions of years for these rocks to become that exact rock. And somehow, after millions of years, they end up side by side with totally different origins. And that's everywhere. Like, what is going on? Like, once I realized the miracle of like two different colored rocks right next to each other, I can't unsee it. It's like everywhere. Like how is this happening? What is the story of these rocks? Blah blah blah. Like
right.
But that always blows my mind when I see two rocks of different colors next to each other. Like, and it looks very natural, like from nature, you know?
Or one that is just so out of place from everything else.
Right. And you just can't explain it.
Yeah.
It's like Finding Nemo times 100.
Finding Nemo times 100.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ready for another keyword?
Yes.
All right. Last keyword. So far we've got strawberry, screwdriver, and more. The last keyword, I like to give people colors. Yellow. I've got a bunch of yellow stuff on my desk here, sitting around me. So you got to work the word yellow in there somewhere.
Okay.
Got one more question, so you got a little time to think on this and formulate your question to yourself.
Okay.
So question number 7. This is the one you didn't have time to prepare for. So let me see. Do you? I like to find out what people do when they're not doing, comics. But do you do anything like volunteer work? like donate your time to Soup Kitchen, or something like that, someplace where you volunteer for nonprofits, or
Yeah, yeah, I do. I
it was
do a
just kind of put me in the mind of somebody that might be, in that volunteer strain, giving
yeah,
back and all. So
yeah.
what is
So
it? Yeah, what is it that you do in that vein?
I have a practice of non-transactionalism, aka like wild acts of random kindness towards strangers. So in New York, I've worked on over 100 resumes for people I don't know, and I've done interview coaching, like one-on-one coaching for people I don't know for free, um, cover letter writing, and I've gotten people their dream jobs. Like my success rate is like through the roof. I also help people I don't know in New York move, because I think that's one of the most stressful things that could ever happen to you, right? Okay, so and part of that is because I believe, at least in New York, right, no one believes in non-transactionalism anymore. Like there's always a reason for something. You're always like wondering when the other shoe's gonna drop. Why did they do that?
Ulterior motives abound.
Yeah. So and I was like, man, I hate that. I hate this world. All right. And I used to hate the world and be like, I had suicidal ideation stuff, and because I thought, man, fuck, this is all fucked up. The world's fucked up. And then I decided, you know what? Instead of hating it, because I would be angry, I was an angry person in the 90s, right? Um, I decided to accept that the world was fucked up. Okay. I was like, all right, you know what? Instead of hating it, I'm gonna accept it, and then I'm gonna do something about it. Like, and I realized, like, oh wait, I can reshape my own reality, right? So if I want to live in a world where it's not about I have to actually create that world, like literally do it. That's my only proof that such a world can ever exist. Otherwise, there is no evidence for it. It might not exist at all, because you can never read the mind of another person about why they did whatever, right? And the key for this to work is like, I really get nothing in return. Like, I will not follow up. I don't like get their number. I don't try to hang out with them. Nothing. Like, and I'll tell you, when I do this, sometimes I'll be like, oh, I'll hear someone's moving, right? Someone I barely know. I'm like, oh, I'll help you move. Tell me when it is. I'll take a day off from my job. And they're like, oh, okay. And they give me their info, but they don't believe me. And I show up, and they're just like, whoa, that dude showed up. And then not only do I help them move, I work harder than everyone. And I started leading the move because I have so much experience now. I've done this over 100 times. And then at the end, if they try to feed me, they're like, hey, you hungry? Let me get you. I'll lie. I'll say like, no, I'm full. And I won't even let them feed me, right? And then I'm like, all right, good luck with your life. That was great. See ya. And I leave. Like, I just leave like nothing. And then, but it just breaks them. Like, you could see it on their face. They don't know what's happening anymore. Like, they don't know what's going on right now. Like, they're so confused because that's how much we believe in transactionalism deeply, right? And I see it everywhere now. Like, everyone's obsessed with it. Once you remove it from yourself, or like once you really live without it, and then I actually think this is actually our human nature. So there was a study done where they gave $20 to two groups of people. One group spends it on themselves. The other group has to spend it on someone else. Groups that spends it on themselves, they feel good for like an hour or two. Group that spends it on someone else, they feel good into the night, into the next day, into the whole week, right? It's actually our nature. Like, we actually enjoy our own lives better when we give selflessly. But capitalism has been teaching us to hoard, and I'm not anti-capitalist, right? I don't want to barter for a banana, okay? But we've been raised with this ethic that it's like my way or the highway, you do you, treat yourself, whatever, right? As if that is some sort of moral value. I think because of the Cold War, right? America had to compete with communism and say like,
right,
and make market values moral values, which wasn't like that wasn't a thing before that, right? And I think we've lost touch with our actually innate nature, because selflessness is actually what, like, if we're all present right now, we all exist in the universe at once. And in a sense, we are all the universe right now. Like, we are the universe. So when you do selfless acts, you are, in a sense, symbolically expressing what the universe actually is, instead of this false idea that we're separate from each other, that we're separated, that we have to fight for the scarce resource because we're separate. Like, you know the story with Jesus, Sermon on the Mount, and he's got the bread and the fish, and he feeds everybody, right?
Right.
So I read every account of this, because it's brought up like 6 times or something, right, in the Bible. And it doesn't say that the food grew. It doesn't say anything like that. It just says, this is what happened. He had this. Everyone ate leftovers. Okay. And I like thought about like, wait, what happened here, right? And I started to rethink what happened, and I'm thinking like, actually, what might have happened was, he's on the mountain. He's like, all right, yeah, we're gonna. And his disciples like, oh, dude, Jesus, like, we don't have enough food for everybody. Like, we're in the middle of nowhere. Like, we're in trouble, you know. He's just like, what do we got? What do we got? They go 2 fish, 3 bread. Okay. Just give it out. Just give it all out. It's like, okay, yeah, we'll start. And he tells the crowd, we're going to start the lecture after everyone eats lunch. That's all the food we got, but you know, you guys eat it here. We'll start once they eat, right? And people in the crowd are like, what the fuck's going on? It's like, he just gave away all his food? Yeah. It's like, we're supposed to eat first, but he gave away all his food. Like, what the fuck's going on? And some guy's like, well, shit, I do have these apples in my bag that I've been stashing because I'm not a dumb motherfucker. I didn't go to the desert with nothing, right? Another guy's like, well, shit, I do have this wine I've been secretly stashing, right? Everyone pulls out their secret stash that they've been hoarding for themselves. And there's abundance. There's so much abundance that there's fucking leftovers. Just because this one guy's like, oh, I'm going to give everything away and have nothing. And guess what? We have fucking leftovers, son. You know, like, I think that's what happened. It was so subversive, this idea of selflessness, that it broke everyone's, it shifted reality, and what was impossible became possible. I think that's actually what's going on in the universe, and that we've lost touch with this so much that we've lost touch with how much power we can get in the universe this way.
Like a Stone Soup story.
Yeah. I mean, and now I got to the point where like, I give someone $1,000 because they're in trouble, I suddenly get $1,000. Like it's happening like that now. Like and it just comes, but from a totally unexpected. But the only way this works, in my experience, is when it's truly selfless. You cannot be expecting. That's not how, because you know when people like karma, even the concept of karma got transactionalized and it became capitalistic. That's not how it works. Karma is just, you create the waves that go out. Whether they come back or not, that's not the point. You made the waves, so now it exists. That's the point. That's the reason. So help people move, get jobs, promotions. I put my job on the line to get people raises that need raises. I put my job on the line a lot just to like prove a point, and I haven't been fired yet. And yeah, but it's a practice, and I teach it, and I like make sure people really understand the benefit, and that it actually is whatever. It's good for you. It's better than you think.
This resume writing and interview coaching you're talking about now, how do you find those people? I mean,
yeah, so I work as a barista, right? So I hear just random chit chat like, oh yeah, I'm looking for another job. Like, oh really? And I'm just your goddamn barista, right? I'm like, let me help you with your resume. I do this all the time. They're like, what? And it's an engineer, right? I've done this for fucking journalists and getting them their dream jobs at the best institutions that they could ever work for. And they were struggling for like a year trying to find a job. I'll fucking get them the job like within a month. And because it's all storytelling, man. Like looking for work and getting the job. It's a story, You just got to present that story right, and then you'll get hired. And first thing I tell them is like, work experience, that word that should not be there. Like I make the resume super minimal.
Yeah.
So that it implies that the reader is intelligent, because obviously that's work experience. I don't need you to write it's work experience. It's redundant. I remove all redundancies. I keep it minimal, but I also keep it so it's relevant and tells like a story about who this person is. And then the cover letter strategy is basically any industry you're trying to get a job in. Study the industry, look at any issues, controversies, or topics of discussion within that industry. Talk about it in your cover letter, like blah, blah, blah in the industry. Here's my opinion on the thing. Anyway, I would like to work here. That's it. Not, I'm good at this, I did this, and I would like to work. Because that's the most boring fucking shit ever. If you can write like an article that's kind of interesting, and like, hey, I would like to work here. You're instantly the most interesting cover letter in the whole pile. And then I'll do interview coaching. I will like meet a person live, and I will play the worst job interviewer ever. Like, I'll be the worst. So, you think you're nervous and you're not worried. I will be the worst, and then I'll teach you how to deal with every situation. And also breathing in. That's so. In fighting, fighters, they breathe out with every hit. They breathe out. You'll hear that in fighting, because in fighting they learned you have a huge adrenaline rush. And most people that don't know how to fight, they run out of gas because they stop breathing. Most people, when they have an adrenaline, they stop breathing. They take a deep breath, and the air comes out, and then that's how the general public fights, and then they lose the fight. A fighter always goes because they know the lungs will automatically inhale. When you only exhale, your lungs will so you don't have to focus on the whole thing, just one part. In an interview, you're also getting a huge adrenaline rush, right? And I've noticed people like run out of breath when they speak almost because they're so nervous. The key, just breathe in. Don't worry about breathing out. Only breathe in, because the words will breathe out for you, and as you talk about what you do, and every time you take a deep breath in and pause, it sounds like you're measured and intelligent, and you don't go you just kind of take it like that kind of shit, and visualize everything you're saying. Like, just visualize it in your mind's eye, and your face, your hands will naturally, it'll kind of like just like move in a way, and you're just twice as charismatic as you were before. Because if you're like nervous and stiff and you're not breathing right, it makes everyone uncomfortable. Because really, the job interview is about, do I want to work with this person 8 hours a day, 5 days a week? That's really what it is. Not necessarily, are you the best? Can I work with you, for a long time? And being relaxed, taking that deep breath in, all the deep breaths in only, visualizing, and you're playing a version of yourself. Those are my 3 tips. Your 3 major tips. It's not, so stop worrying about how you look, who you are, blah, blah, blah. A person going into a job interview to get a job, that's not a real human being. Human beings in your real day-to-day life, when you're actually thinking of 100 things at once all the time. That's how humans really act. A person's giving a speech, doing an interview, whatever, that's a human being focused on one idea, one thing, right? That's not a real person anyway. So stop like, trying to wonder how you are, you.
Right.
You're playing a character almost. And so you play a character, and you just play the character. It like kind of helps you not get too nervous and be in your head too much. It's like, get out of your head. Breathe in, relax, have a good time, get that fucking job. And even that, the life coaching I do with like the celebrities, I don't take money from them. I refuse their money. They offer me lots of money, and I refuse it, because they have a purpose to help others. They have these deep purposes, and that's why, like, it's part of that practice of non-transactionalism, and creating the world I want to be in, becoming the hero I wish I had when I was a kid. Like, just be it. Like, everyone laments how there's no one there to do the thing. You just become the thing. I don't want to hear you complaining about we don't have the thing. Be the thing, or shut the fuck up. Like,
yeah, make it happen.
Make it happen, or shut the fuck up. I don't need to hear a bunch of people talking their politics. They never do anything. Like, they never take action or make any sacrifice. Like liking or reposting a thing is not a sacrifice. That actually gives you social currency. You actually earn social currency. Activism requires sacrifice, period. I'm not the one that coined that or came up with that, but I realized, like, that's the thing. You have to sacrifice in order for anyone to take activism seriously. And because it's cool, that's the problematic nature of activism being cool. The sacrifice is lost.
Yeah, when it starts to get some sort of social status attached to it.
Yeah, and it's not even, man, I'm as critical of liberals as I am of conservatives, but I don't hate on anyone, because I think we're all just confused we're all just scared and confused ultimately. But we don't need to be.
Agreed on that one. All right. You got a question ready for yourself?
Yeah. So sometimes I'm gonna talk to me like I'm talking to myself or whatever.
Okay.
So sometimes you would have those yellow screwdrivers because it was all about more, you know, and you're trying to get away from that. And, you know, I know recently you've been making kombucha with strawberries to make it tasty and fizzy and stuff like that. Are you done with like substances? Like, is that an extension of that? Like, what is that? Okay. Yeah. So, yeah, I used to drink a lot, you know, but I watch like friends in my 20s like shit themselves, and you know, like I'm like, holy fuck, this is crazy, you know, and I kind of like stepped away before it got too bad, and I have an addictive personality anyway, so yeah, I started making kombucha like crazy and making all my drinks, all my things, all my food. I like try to make everything myself because then I have less, you know, corporations don't control me as much. Corporations are not my mommy taking care of me. I don't fucking believe it. They don't give a shit about you, you know? So I don't like to lull myself into that idea, and that could be part of my addictive personality to like maybe obsess over that stuff. But you know what? I'm healthier. I'm happy. And you know, my wife has gotten a lot healthier too. And I think we need to take control of our food again. We need to like take control of how we eat, what we consume, and now that just not just suck the teat of the corporation to. And I'm not anti-capitalist. I just think we've lost touch with how much power and autonomy we all have as individuals because the instant gratification culture is so easy to get swept away with. And I have to do this stuff like an addicted person because otherwise I'll be addicted to instant gratification and that all that bullshit. And it's not a way to live because you know what? To get stronger, to get smarter, wiser, everything, there's got to be some pain. You know, you got to go through that pain. And if you're only used to instant gratification culture, you will never have the gumption to deal with that kind of pain that you need to grow and be the best that you want to be deep down.
Right. Everybody needs to just slow down a little bit, not stop. Just
down,
keep moving.
Even during Corona and everyone's like self-healing, like everyone's like realizing, oh my god, I'm miserable, right? Like tons of people in America are like, holy shit, I hate myself, right? And they're like, you know, learning all the tools.
Let's start a YouTube channel.
Oh yeah. No, I mean, right. There's a whole coronavirus generation of YouTubers. I'm part of that, right?
Yeah.
But I have found that a lot of people that are going through this healing and all this stuff, I feel like they're a little hard on themselves, right? So, in my opinion, when you realize like you've been brainwashed your whole life by your parents or whatever, and you need to kind of uncouple your thinking, it's like a 10-year process. On average, I think it's like a 10-year process, right? Everyone's on year 1.5, okay? And everyone's like so hard on themselves because they're like, I read the book, I did the program, I'm doing yoga, and I'm fucking a nightmare. I'm still living a nightmare, you know? And I was like, no, don't. It takes 10 years, bitch. Relax, you know? Like, in fact, everyone's doing great for that 1.5 years because we're all actually doing it collectively too. We have gotten more progress with self-healing in 1.5 years than ever, really. And thanks to this, you know, I'm going to give thanks to this horrible time because it's reminded all of us that we are vulnerable. But don't be so hard on yourself. Stop that shit. Don't feel guilty that you weren't fully realized and healed right away. That's too much. That pressure, that's part of that programming. That's the same programming, you know? Be easy. Everyone's doing great. That's what people are not realizing because of instant gratification culture. Like, what? I got the thing and I subscribe to all the things. It's not like that. Self-healing isn't that overnight thing, you know? Unless it's ayahuasca. I'm just kidding. That's a joke.
Yeah. It definitely takes time.
Oh yeah. I mean, like I've been at it for like 50. I've been self-aware of my like how I'm not my thoughts, and I'm like sort of my thoughts are kind of a separate thing from me, and I can watch like whatever. I've been aware of that since I was 12, actually, through like intense traumatic experiences. So, and I'm 37, right? So it's like over 20 years I've been developing all these like principles and shit. So like they're like, why am I not like you? I'm like, bitch, you just started. You're not supposed to, like, it's not that fast. Like, and I don't want it to be that fast. You're gonna be overwhelmed. You know, it's gonna be overwhelming because it's a culture shock to realize how everyone's kind of brainwashed, and you're like, wow, like. There's like a world where there could be no hate. There's a world where we don't have to be angry, or like there's a place for anger. We should get angry, but to hold anger, there's a place where like that doesn't have to exist. Holding anger is a different thing. That changes what anger is.
Yeah, that'll eat you from the inside out.
Yeah, and it's the worst when you hold, and it's also a form of control. You're trying to control how everything sucks, and you're trying to control everyone around you when you sustain anger. And there's a fine line between love and obsession, and everyone gets them confused. They always get confused for each other. But there's one major difference between love and obsession. Love is freedom, and obsession is control. Love is the freedom to be with you or not to be with you. That's love. Obsession is when you have to have them. And if it's that, it's not love. So don't get it twisted. Don't confuse yourself. And then if you use this equation, you can like realize like, the truth of all the relationships in your life. Like, you're like, oh wait, that's not fucking love. Like, so you don't have to have like manipulative friends or, emotionally manipulative people in your life. Like just use that equation and you could figure it out. And it's like a hard thing to grapple with, but it's so simple and effective, but still people have a hard time fully realizing that simple truth.
Well, that sounds like a good note to end on today.
Great.
So, before we kick off here, is there anything you brought along to show that we didn't get to?
Oh, yeah, I was talking about food. So
yeah.
Like I grow oregano and dry it, and rosemary. I grew the rosemary, and I like.
Yeah, now I see something glowing behind you. Is that?
Oh, this is a light for atmosphere, so I'm more like a YouTuber. So I look more
Oh,
like
okay.
one of those...
I didn't know if you had some sort of hydroponic thing going back there.
Oh, no. I do grow
artificial UV light on it, or
I do grow mushrooms actually. Sometime, not now, but I have done that. I got Sichuan peppercorns. I don't know if you know.
I love them.
You ever use this?
Yeah, I used to put them in a pepper grinder.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love Szechuan peppercorn.
If you toast it in the microwave for 30 seconds with like a plate on top, it amps it up.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And I love playing with different ingredients from different parts of the world, and also
you used to love to cook with saffron.
Yeah, saffron. I haven't used saffron myself much, but I'm willing to try. And I like making vegan dishes. I'm not even vegan, and I like making vegan food that's so good. I'll have a dinner party and all the meat eaters eat that shit, and they don't know it's vegan. And at the end, I'm like, hey, everybody, guess what? Vegan bitches. That shit was vegan. Like I just mess around with you. And I'm doing a vegan cooking series on my YouTube comic book channel.
I heard you talking about that one. That sounds pretty funny.
Yeah, it's fun. It's funny as hell. Yeah, I can't wait to do the next one. And it's not me. I play a guy named Dan Kim, who's like a disgruntled, chef from Wayne Manor that was laid off because Bruce Wayne lost everything. But
and he didn't realize he was working for Batman and Robin.
Yeah, and it's fun. It's fun because I'm not that person, so it's actually fun for me to play an angry, annoyed, cynical man. It's so fun to play that. I know
that's I just thought of something, not part of any of the original questions I had here. You're always jotting notes down in your notebook. How many notebooks have you gone through? I mean, it just seems like every time I see you on anything, you're always jotting notes down or referencing maybe something you wrote down.
Yeah, not a lot. This is the second one. And it's, it just barely got in there. But I'm actually a visual thinker, so a lot of times like I'm like drawing like almost images and graphs, and I'm like bringing words and circles and stuff, and it's just a way to keep, because I actually have too many thoughts running through my head, and I lose my train of thought too easily. I get swept away with like flights of fancy and shit. So I keep this, and then I can also everything you guys say, right? I'll take little notes about what you guys all say, and then I just like create jokes around it, and I like bust out jokes during panels, like because
Yeah, I don't know why. I just vision you like opening up a closet door and then a ton of books come falling out of it. So,
I do have like a stack of notebooks, small notebook like this, but it's mostly story ideas. So writing notes for meetings, I the only time I usually do this, so I do this for the YouTube, but generally the only time I usually do this is if I'm like pretending I'm a lawyer, or I have a lawyer, and I'm in a legal situation. So I start taking notes, and I just scare the shit out of people. Like that's my strategy. Anytime you're
yeah,
dealing with legal, take notes. If you cite a law, you just scare the shit out of people. Like I've had charges dropped on 6 people because I played like I pretended I had a lawyer, and then I started laughing about how I'm gonna just sue the shit out of you. But it's all I'm just acting, right? And it worked. They dropped the charges. They reversed everything. Even people that said they were guilty, they reversed the charges because I scared the shit out of everyone. Because pretending to be a lawyer, I always pretend I'm a lawyer, especially in the city. If you deal with I just pretend I'm a lawyer, or I'm a law student or whatever. Because I look young, so I could pretend I'm a law student.
well, you got anything coming up you wanna plug? Or anything?
No, just I'm just still like finding my voice in a lot of ways. So I'm gonna
So
be doing
basically,
more.
just check out your channel and
Check out my channel. I think I'm gonna
sub
do,
up and watch every video twice.
yeah. I'm gonna might do like a podcasting kind of thing or interview thing. I don't know. I don't know what I'm doing. But and it was scary actually when I first started. I going off top, like off the reservation or whatever. Like when I first did a video that was a little off, I was terrified actually, and I thought, oh man, I'm gonna lose I'm gonna lose everybody. But the more I just went like off the rails, the more people seem to love it, actually, and it's sort of defining me better. So I really stand out, and I think we all should do that. I think we should all not be afraid of who we are, because I think we're all more incredible than we think, and we just like and go harder and go deeper, and I think that's a good way to find your voice.
Sure is. Sure is. Well, I think that'll do it for this episode. Again, Dan, I want to thank you for coming on
Oh,
and
thank you. It's
and
an
shooting the
honor.
shit
It's an
with me for
honor.
the last
Yeah.
2 hours.
Yeah.
So, had a good time. Hope you did too.
Oh yeah, we're sweating our asses off, but we're having a good time.
Yeah, it's fortunate. It's not. I'm still sweating a little bit, but not as much as if I would be in the shop.
Yeah.
People can now probably see I don't have a stack of books behind me, but I'm a hell of a lot cooler right now. So, anyways, that'll do it for this episode. Until next time, I'm Scott from Hoarder's Hide, and
I'm Dank from Dank Comics
all right, have a good one.
Station.